So from here, we'll go ahead and we'll look at levels of organization. So we're going to just kind of review this because I think there might have been some confusion here. So the biosphere is the big kahuna. That covers every single living thing on Earth, every bacteria, every bird, every bug, everything. Okay, so the biosphere is this big overarching level of organization. If we say biosphere, we mean every single living thing on Earth. The word that Aldo Leopold used for that in his essay was biota. And it's not quite the same thing, but there's sort of an approximate relationship. You know, when he says biota, he's kind of talking about the biosphere. So they don't equal one another. That wiggly equal sign means is sort of equal to or relates to. It means, you know, so you have equals, doesn't equal, approximately equals. I don't know if you knew that. Close to. Okay, so we have that big level of organization, the biosphere. Within the biosphere, we have a whole bunch of ecosystems. Let's see if I can do this. There. And ecosystems can be as big as, you know, the Mojave Desert. It's a pretty big desert. They can be as big as Lake Erie. Lake Erie is an ecosystem. They can be as small as the pond down at the park. An ecosystem can be as small as an individual meadow. So there are a lot of ecosystems in the biosphere. Within one ecosystem, we have, and the ecosystem includes what? It includes living things, it includes non-living things. So if we're talking about the pond, how many of you have been, there's a little fishing pond down at the park right down the hill? Okay. You know, that's an ecosystem. Beaver Creek is an ecosystem. Beaver Creek and the land connected to it. And by Beaver Creek, I mean not the park, but the stream itself, the actual creek. That is an ecosystem. Within those ecosystems, there are living things, there are non-living things, and they're all sort of interacting. They're working and playing together. Within that ecosystem, we have bunches. I should have made these boxes bigger. We have groups. Yes, I should have made the boxes bigger. We have groups of communities. So within an ecosystem, we tend to, I should clarify that. You know, we may have a community. So if we think about the ecosystem in Beaver Creek, we may have, you know, the community of the things that are actually living in the creek, the community of the things that are living on the banks of the creek that are influencing the creek. You know, the old, does a bear poop in the woods? Yes, they do. And where did they get those nutrients from? The creek. And where do some of those nutrients flow back to? The creek. So we have communities within that. Within a single community, we have lots of populations. Okay. Actually, I should change this to make it clearer. When we talk about ecosystems, we typically talk about the community of living things and then all the non-living things. So that's what makes up an ecosystem. Gesundheit. And those non-living things are also known as what? The abiotic factors, right? So within an ecosystem, we're going to have that. Within a community, though, we are going to have bunches of different populations. And those populations are going to include every species that lives in that ecosystem. So you're going to have populations of lots and lots of populations of bacteria, trees, animals, insects, mammals, birds, depending on the ecosystem. You know, in an ocean ecosystem, will you have black bears? No. Are birds part of the ocean ecosystem? They can be if we're talking about the ecosystem as being the atmosphere above the ocean that contributes nutrients. Birds contribute nutrients to the ocean. How? They poop. They poop in the water. They also die and end up in the water very often, and that's the way that nutrients end up in the ocean. So within a population, remember a population is all one species, all in one place. Within a population, you have lots and lots and lots of, oh boy, individual organisms. So within one population, you have, you know, in some cases a population might be made up of 10 organisms. Some populations may be made up of 1,000 organisms. You know, it varies tremendously. And that's the thing that people often confuse for population is the size of the population. So the size of the population is how many individual organisms are in that population. That's different than when we talk scientifically about a population. So biosphere is the big umbrella. Within that biosphere, lots of different ecosystems. Within those ecosystems, both communities of living things, groups of non-living things, abiotic factors, and within those communities, lots of different populations. Does that help if you were confused from yesterday? And I'm only basing the idea that maybe some people were confused based on the results of the FIP quiz, or the recall quiz. Okay, so then let's move on and talk about some of those biotic and abiotic factors and how they come into play. So we're going to start off talking about biotic factors. And these are the kinds of things in an ecosystem that are living, that affect the other living things in the ecosystem. So what we have here, these are all relationships. Because so this is one of the slides, you have a partial for this. Okay, my apologies. Oh, well then okay. So when you had this on your vocabulary sheet, a lot of you, I think, grabbed that prefix bio. And bio means life. When we say bio, we mean life. And I think it's from the Greek, actually. The prefix a means without. So an atheist is someone who does not believe in any God. Somebody who is, let's see, I'm trying to think of another good one with A. I keep thinking of con. Well, yeah, okay, asexual reproduction is reproduction without sex. So when we have the prefix a, it means the absence of or without. So abiotic factors are things that are not living. Biotic factors are things that are living. And whether they're abiotic or biotic factors, they're influencing all the living things in that ecosystem, in the whole system. So now we can go to biotic factors. So the thing about these is these are all relationships. Because if you think about it, if you have two living things that are interacting, they have a relationship. So your day is full, all the interactions you have with living things are relationships. If you have a pet, you have a relationship with that pet. It might be good, it might be bad. I had a friend whose cat used to stick its paw up her nose to wake her up for breakfast. She would wake up to this every morning. It's a relationship. If you have siblings or parents or grandparents who you're living with, you have a relationship with them. You come to school, you have relationships with your friends, you have relationships with your teachers, you and I have some relationship. When you have two living things that are interacting in any way, they form a relationship. And in nature, some of the big relationships are these. We are most familiar with predator-prey relationships. Predators eat things. Give me an example of a predator-prey relationship.
Snake and a rat.
Snake and a rat. Okay. Cat and a mouse. Give me another one. Wolf and a bunny. Okay. And around here, coyotes and bunnies are a big one. What else?
Human and deer.
Human and deer. It's a great one.
Shark and fish.
Shark and a game fish. Okay. What about those vicious, wily predators, white-tailed deer, and their prey, clover, baby maple trees, corn? Is that a predator-prey relationship? Yeah, it is. We don't think of things that are eating plants as being predators, but they are. Believe you me, the clover trembles in fear at the approach of the vicious bunny with its very sharp teeth. Predators are things that eat prey organisms. So we have lots of different kinds of predator-prey relationships. Symbiotic relationships, this is really sort of an overarching thing. So they're long-term relationships between two species. Humans and dogs have a symbiotic relationship. It appears that dogs were domesticated, I can't remember the exact figure, it's between 10 and 15,000 years ago. Humans have been hanging out with dogs for a really long time. And it started with wolves. Wolves were domesticated by hunter-gatherer humans. This is pre-agricultural revolution. Oh, maybe it's longer than 15,000. I'd have to go back and look it up. But they've had this relationship for a really long time. Each side gets something out of it. What do dogs get out of the relationship? Food, shelter, protection. What do humans get out of the relationship? Protection, typically. These days, for a lot of dogs, it's more companionship than protection. Folks who have 4-pound poodles probably aren't getting a whole lot of defense out of that, nor are 4-pound poodles tremendous livestock guardian animals. But nowadays a lot of humans get companionship from dogs. But historically, yeah, we've gotten a lot of stuff from dogs. They're really important. And we do also have working dogs these days. I have a friend who has MS. Do you know what that is? It's a degenerative neurospinal disease. So basically, she's in her 50s. She's got the mobility of a woman in her 80s. She's lost a lot of function. She can't grip things very well. Her walking is kind of unsteady. She trips a lot. And she's now on her second service dog. And April, the wonder dog, her last service dog, April could put clothes in the dryer. April opened the refrigerator door and the stove door. April could put laundry in a basket. April, the list of things that April did, April was awesome. She was a really cool dog. She fetched any number of objects. Basically anything that Tara was not going to put in her mouth and eat, April could fetch. April didn't fetch food because really you don't want a dog having your food in their mouth unless it's really well wrapped. But April did a lot of stuff. So these symbiotic relationships, the key thing is when you look at a relationship and say, is this a symbiotic relationship? Two different species, multiple generations. This relationship has been going on for a long time. So humans and dogs are a good one. What about, wolves and deer? Is that well, that's predator-prey.
What about humans and bacteria?
Oh, that's a fantastic one. Yeah, so we talked about this a lot in class, in the other class yesterday. No. Interestingly enough. Now, there's no case that I can think of where it's a predator-prey relationship. Maybe, while we're alive. You know that you could not live without your bacteria, right? You know that you're covered in bacteria? Pick up your hand and look at it. You're looking at more bacterial cells than your own cells. There are more bacterial cells in your body and on your body than there are your own cells. If you killed, somebody in the other class said, can I just kill off all my bacteria? And I said, you can, and then you will die. You will literally die without your bacteria. So without the bacteria in your gut, and your digestive tract from mouth to anus is covered with bacteria, coated full of bacteria. You are teeming with bacteria. Without them, you die. What do they get out of the deal? They get a nice warm place to live. They get food from what you eat. What do you get? They help break down things in your body. They help break down nutrients. Why can humans eat beans at all? I mean, beans make you fart, but why don't they pass through like rocks? I mean, they're made of a lot of cellulose. They've got a lot of indigestible fiber. The only reason that you can break them down and get nutrients from them at all is the bacteria in your gut. Without those bacteria, they would pass through you like little rocks. Everything would, really. Your body doesn't break down all this stuff on its own. You and your bacteria break food down together. Interestingly enough, since you mentioned that and since we're thinking about the fact that these are long-term relationships, this morning on the news, so I listened to NPR as I come into work, Utsi. Yes. Is that where you're going with that? Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, in the early 90s, there was a glacier that receded in the Alps, and this was between Italy and Austria, I believe. Anyway, out of the ice comes a mummy. Utsi. Utsi the glacier man. Utsi the ice man. And this guy's 5,000 years old. So he was killed. It gets a lot of press as like, Ice Age murder mystery, because Utsi was killed with an arrow in the back. Somebody shot this guy in the back as he was going up a mountain. And what was amazing about Utsi, that's what they named him, was that he was very well preserved. His clothing was very well preserved. His skin, they found tattoos on his body that they were able to get images of. They were able to reconstruct his clothing. Well, recently they went in, and they had done some analysis on his stomach contents prior, because I had seen a big special on him. Well, they've now released a further analysis on his stomach contents. So, you look at stomach contents, and you say, what did this person eat the day they died? And Utsi had this really awesome last meal. He had deer and goat and a bunch of grains, and they said, he had a good meal on his last day. What they have now done is they have been able to sequence the bacteria that were in his gut. They found DNA from the bacteria that were in Utsi's guts. He had a bacteria called H. pylori. Now, humans today, on average, 50% of humans have H. pylori in their guts. 50% of you probably have. So between us, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 4 or 5 of us probably have H. pylori in our guts. H. pylori has been living in human guts, we now know, for at least 5,000 years, probably for longer than that. So, 5,000 years ago, humans had H. pylori in their guts. They were passing that H. pylori on to their offspring, the offspring of the H. pylori in their guts. Their offspring were passing that H. pylori on. How do we pass on gut bacteria? Do you want to know? Well, that would be one way to share your gut bacteria. fecal contamination, that is poop on your hands is another way to share your gut bacteria. But actually the most common way, the way that most humans, prior to changes in how baby humans are handled, most baby humans, because baby humans start out with no bacteria in their gut, baby humans get their gut bacteria from nursing. They get their gut bacteria from breast milk and from latching onto their mother's breast because their mother's skin is covered in bacteria. And so when they latch onto their mother's breast, they get a mouthful of bacteria along with the mouthful of milk. And the milk also has bacterial cells in it. So that's part of where humans get their gut bacteria. And they get it other places, like little kids. I mean, my daughter, I remember distinctly when she was 9 months old, she ate a piece of bird poop. I turned around, we were out in the garden, she was like, doing her thing, and I turned around just in time to see her go, okay, whatever. So, she added to her gut bacteria. She added interesting flora to her gut bacteria. Yay. Yeah, that's a relationship that's been going on for thousands of years. Modern humans have been here for, 50,000 years. We've had gut bacteria that whole time because all other mammal species, all other species that have a gut, have gut bacteria. So there have been these bacterial relationships for a long time. So mutualistic relationships, things like us and our gut bacteria, us and dogs, there is a mutual benefit. And on your vocabulary sheet, some of you probably in mutualistic saw the word mutual. So mutual means both people get something out of it. There's a mutual benefit. Commensal, one organism benefits, the other isn't harmed. And those are a little bit harder to come up with. A lot of those are like shelter situations. We'll talk much more about these in the next chapter. And parasitic. Well, parasites are a whole different thing. So in parasites, one organism is getting a benefit, the other is actually actively harmed. The human examples are a lot of things like intestinal worms, pinworms, roundworms, if your dog's ever had worms, heartworms. Worms can kill an organism. They can take so many nutrients from this organism. Is that done? Thank you.
I can take notes on here. I don't need to take notes in here.
So parasites can actually kill you, but they'd prefer not to. So that's a situation. Why do they prefer not to?
Because they want to eat all
You're their meal ticket. Yeah, the longer you live, the more nutrients they can get from you. Fleas are a parasite. And fleas can kill, especially like really young animals, puppies and kittens, can have so much blood loss due to flea infestation that they can die. But commonly, no, fleas want to keep you alive so they can continue to feed on you. Okay. Abiotic factors and their influence. So these are the non-living things. What happens to the bacteria in your body when you die? Well, the bacterial community starts to change within minutes after death. So you have, what you want to imagine is there might be 1,000 species of bacteria in your body. You have some that are more prevalent. So you have some bacteria that are more common when you're alive. When the body ceases life functions, some of those populations start to drop, and other bacteria start to actually digest the body itself. This is the process of decomposition. If you've ever passed a raccoon on your bike on a summer day that's been dead on the side of the road for a while, they're all bloated and stinky, and there's a greasy puddle under them. Not to be really graphic. Good morning. I hope you have a strong stomach in the morning. I'm a biologist, so nothing really puts me off my food. As an organism ceases life functions, the best way to sum this up is a quote I heard from a biologist years ago who said, "Every mammal carries in their guts the toolbox to dismantle their own body." Whoa.
So what happens when your body is fully decomposed?
Those bacteria, the ones that can survive outside a human body, end up in soil or wherever you decompose. The ones that can't survive outside a human body die. When you die, your bacteria die. So, other than, why are there prohibitions in human cultures about handling dead bodies? So in human cultures, there are typically pretty strong cultural traditions around death and around handling bodies. And some of those are sort of cultural evolutionary mechanisms to protect us, because handling decomposing material can transmit the bacteria we don't want. So anyway. Okay, we're not going to have time for reading time today, I'm afraid. So we will start talking about abiotic factors on Monday. Words that are now due. Hold on. So number 13, 14, and 15, symbiotic, mutualistic, and commensal. We talked about flora, number 11. Try it, but we're going to talk more about it on Monday. What I was talking about it in terms of your bacterial flora. So we'll pick that up on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend, folks.